Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Language Arts Gallery. Today, we're going to continue at day 3 of How to Write a Persuasive Essay. This is all part of our Writing for Young Learners series. You can find this lesson and all of my writing workshop lessons in my Teachers Pay Teachers store, which is linked in the video description. So please remember to like, subscribe, and comment on the video, and you'll get all of the lessons in this series of writing workshop lessons and all of my future videos on different genres of writing. So let's get started. In our last lesson, we talked about developing the body paragraphs of our persuasive essay. And we said that we were writing about doing something to help our community. And we were presenting this in a persuasive essay. So let's quickly review the parts of a persuasive essay. I think it's really important that our young learners go over the different rhetorical features of our essay. And we continue to review this with them every writing workshop lesson because our students really need review. So we want our reader in this lesson to understand why this community project is important, and we're presenting that in the body of the essay. We've done that in our last lesson. And ultimately, what makes a persuasive essay different from an opinion essay is we want our audience to take action. We want them to join with us in this project. So remember, our persuasive essay is organized into an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And as I said, today we are going to work on writing an introduction. So let's take a look at this introduction. This is from our mentor text, and we covered this in day 2. We introduced this to our students. It says, "Our neighborhood park is a fun place to play, but lately it's gotten dirty. There's trash on the ground and the playground is messy. If we all work together to clean the park, it'll be a better place for everyone. I think we should clean the park to make it safe, beautiful, and fun again." So, I think this is a pretty good introduction. I think the authors introduced the topic. They've told the audience what they want them to do. They've presented some reasons. It's not very specific, but they presented some reasons as to why the park should be cleaned. It doesn't really engage me. It doesn't draw me in. So I think we can definitely make this introduction better. So let's go ahead and go through what a good introduction should include and how we can improve this introduction. So first of all, a good introduction has to engage the reader. It has to hook the reader, draw them into the essay. And we're going to talk about strategies that we can use to do that. We want to introduce the topic. We want to give the reader a roadmap. And I'm going to give a little bit more detail on this because I think we can improve this roadmap. And then we want to clearly and strongly state our thesis. Let's start with different strategies that we can use to hook the reader. We want to draw our reader in from that first sentence. So we can use an exclamation or a strong statement. "Our neighborhood park looks like a trash dump." This is a lot stronger. It's a lot more engaging than simply saying, "The park's nice, but it's gotten dirty." We can ask the reader a question. Now, normally I wouldn't advise using this strategy with my older students, not in academic writing, but I think for young learners, I think this is a strategy students love. My students always use this strategy. A great many of them use this strategy because they like directly speaking to their audience. And I think it's really cool. I think that's a great way for writers to establish their persona. So here our author can say, "Would you want to play on a swing surrounded by garbage?" And we can use a quote or a famous saying. This is a little bit more challenging for young learners, but some of your students may choose to do that. We might say something like, "Take only memories, leave only footprints." I think this is a tougher strategy for students to use because when we start with a quote or a famous saying, we can't use that sentence on its own. We need to include another sentence to give that quote context. So here, the writer would need to talk about how this relates to the park being dirty and how people have left more than just footprints in the neighborhood park. We can present a scenario for our reader. Imagine walking through the park and stepping on a soda can instead of soft grass. We can use a statistic or a startling fact. And now this requires the students to do a little bit of research on their own. They might say it takes a plastic bottle an average of 450 years to decompose. Or we can use a startling noise. I love teaching onomatopoeia to my students. This might be a great strategy to incorporate into your writing workshop lessons if you're teaching onomatopoeia. Crunch! My foot landed on an old plastic soda bottle buried in the sand. So when we introduce the topic, this is really simple. We're telling our audience what we're going to be writing about. And what did we say we're writing about? Well, we're writing about engaging in a community project, and this is about cleaning up the park. Our roadmap, this is, I think, something that's really important because when we teach our students that they need to present the three big ideas that are going to be covered in the body of the essay, I think that gives our students a clear understanding of the rhetorical features of academic writing. I think that's really important to develop with our young writers from a very early age. So they're going to understand, okay, I need to tell my audience what I'm going to say. I need to say it, and then I need to tell them what I said, which is what we're going to cover in our conclusion. So we have to make sure that our roadmap matches to the three big reasons covered in the body of the essay. So before we get to our thesis, I want to go back and I want to take a look here. Okay, so our roadmap should say that cleaning the park is going to make it safer, it's going to make it look better, and it's going to help the environment or help the environment and protect the animals. If we go back here, we don't really do that. We say it's going to make it safe, beautiful, and fun. So we need to edit that. We need to improve that. And we're going to look at how we do that when we look at our revised mentor text. So when we talk about our thesis statement, this is where our young writers are presenting their opinion. We want this to be the last sentence of our introduction. We want to be direct, and we want to say precisely what it is that we believe. And we can use language like I think, I feel, I believe, or in my opinion. And I think our author does a good job of this. We say I think. So let's take a look at our mentor text here. We want to make that hook better, clearly introduce the topic, provide a roadmap, and write a strong thesis statement. So here we've presented a scenario. Imagine walking through the park and stepping on a soda can instead of soft grass. Our neighborhood park has become far too dirty and needs to be cleaned. Cleaning the park will make it safe, beautiful, and good for the environment. I believe we should all work together to clean our neighborhood park. So, wow, perfect. Okay, we started with a scenario. We introduced the topic. It's the park's dirty. It needs to be clean. We edited and revised that roadmap. We said it's going to make it safe, beautiful, and it's going to be good for the environment. And then we stated our opinion, and we used that language, I believe, for expressing our opinion. I believe we should all work together to clean the neighborhood park. And this thesis is important because it's going to be restated in our conclusion, which we're going to talk about in our next lesson. And we're going to call our audience to action. We're going to ask them to do something specific related to this thesis. So when we look at this, we've talked about this. We see that the author covered all the really, really important parts of our introduction. And I think color coding this makes it really easy for our students to understand. So hopefully in our last class, our students completed this graphic organizer. It's a great tool for our students to go back to. Don't let them just lose this. Make sure this becomes part of their writing portfolio for this genre of writing, because they're going to refer back to those topic sentences, those reasons, and they're going to include that in their introduction as part of the roadmap. They're not including the supporting details, right? That's what the body of the essay is there for. They're going to expand on those reasons, but we do want those 3 big reasons included in our introduction. So they can transfer that right here to this graphic organizer, which is included with our lesson. And then they can think about how they're going to hook the reader. What are we writing about? They're writing about whatever community project that they're interested in engaging in. And what's their thesis? And we've got those language supports right there. Now, hopefully they can put that all together into a 4-sentence introduction right there. So I would use this as our independent work time where students break out and go back to their seats before they come back to the carpet. And when they come back to the carpet after they break out, then they can share their work with the class. You can have someone sit in the author's chair and they can share either a strategy for a hook, they can share what their 3 big reasons were, how they presented their thesis, or you might have someone share their entire introduction. If I was teaching this, I would work through each part of the introduction. I would have one student volunteer to share their hook, then how they introduced the topic, what their roadmap was, and then what their thesis was. And then I would call on several students to share the entirety of their introduction. All right, thank you so much. Again, please remember to subscribe to the channel so you get all of the videos in this genre of writing. And I'll see you in our next lesson where we're going to talk about writing a conclusion for a persuasive essay.